Welcome back, peeps, to the What's Next channel. We're covering the brand new show, She-Hulk, right here with my man, the founder of the Circle Club, Tyrone. How you doing, my friend? Welcome
Great,
back.
great. I'm glad that I can have these conversations with you because you know your stuff, right? You're the Marvel expert around here, and it's a blessing to have you around, brother. So why don't we just dive into my first question, or really reaction? It's kind of buzzy right now. Everyone's talking about it, but there was this little news clip where you could see man fights with metal claws in bar brawl, and we all know who that is. Listen here, bub. You know, so we know Wolverine's around the corner. What did you think, man? What's your reaction to that?
You
Like
know, I
Wolverine is
honestly,
in the universe already?
yeah, so I didn't notice it when I was first watching it. Obviously, it was very small. Shout out to whoever found that or noticed that or
Yeah.
clipped that. I'm excited. Wolverine's by far my favorite X-Men character. I think when it comes to introducing the X-Men, he's the one that makes the most sense. He lives typically the longest for
Yep.
obvious reasons. If you don't
Yep.
know Wolverine and his health regeneration, I think it makes the most sense. That's who I want to see, right? Like, I
Definitely.
think there's Marvel is great with their fan service in the sense of they understand what needs to get pushed, and not in the sense of like they're just giving us everything we want, but they know like we're clamoring for mutants, we're clamoring for the X-Men, and they're gonna do it right. And I think the best way to do that right is to start introducing Wolverine first, and from there, we'll see. But
From
dude,
from there, who knows?
I want a clip of that bar fight at some
Yes.
point, at
Yes.
some time. I need a clip of that.
And who knows? Check out our other video over in the Circle Club. We asked John Carlos about Professor X, and he gave us a pretty great answer. Not gonna lie. So go check that video out. But yeah, man, Wolverine seemed like the perfect first person. Like he is one of those characters who he's not lovable, but he feels lovable, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's really tough. He's rough, right, and ready. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
that like he's a great first introductory character as well because you can really explain sort of how he became a mutant pretty fast, pretty quickly, and I think that'll be very different than a lot of the other superheroes how they've gotten their
Mm-hmm.
powers as well. Which kind of opens up this Pandora's box of, oh my god, there must be so many other people. One thing
Mm-hmm.
we didn't talk about in the other video, we did a quick little review on the Circle Club, is how that first villain that we saw She-Hulk go after,
Mm-hmm.
sort of random, but also like they sort of said they called her in the news as a superhero, right? But I think now we're gonna start to see this distinction between superhero, super villain, and mutant. And I think that small little tease telling us about it, and at the end of Miss Marvel, we got that tease about her being a mutant. So I think that it's really right around the corner. Who knows, right? Who has any idea when they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
actually introduce them? But I just they're warming it up, they're heating it up. When do you think we're gonna first see Wolverine potentially?
I think they're gonna really get into the mutants in phase 5, right?
Mm,
I don't think it's a phase 4 thing. I think phase
mm,
4 is gonna continue to tease at it.
yep.
But I have this strong feeling that in phase 5 it's going to be leaning very heavily on mutants and associating to characters that typically work with mutant related characters, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we've talked about. We've talked about Midnight Suns, right? And I think like Wolverine is a character that typically interacts with these individuals that we've seen, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
with Blade, who's going to be introduced, with the Black Knight, who's clearly going to be introduced a little bit more beyond his just real tiny role he had within the Eternals, right?
Right,
Within
right.
this same exact clip for Wolverine, they're also diving a little bit further into the recognition of the Eternals.
Yes.
Um,
Everyone's
uh,
been asking when are we getting the Eternals? It's been forever. We haven't gotten the Eternals. They have this little clip that says why there is a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean. And what's funny is we talked about this when we covered Miss Marvel, which is why you guys got to make sure you subscribe because we make new content every single week. We talked about how in Miss Marvel, there's going to be a lot of conspiracy theorists in the Marvel universe now, right? And I think some of those conspiracy theorists may be actually spot on. We see that, with Scott, Ant-Man having his own podcast, he's sort of giving people teases of things, right? We saw in Hawkeye how the public has a perception of how some things went versus how it really went down, right? And so I think that we're going to start to see that play out as well here. And I think this curiosity about what is that sort of statue thing going on, I think people are going to start to sort of dive into that a little bit and try to figure those sort of things out.
Yeah, I mean, there's also going to be some elements too of, I think, like what you saw in The Dark Knight, with people trying to almost like try to become superheroes, and there's going to be a lot of individuals who cannot be these individuals, right? And that could fuel a lot of these clients that Jennifer Walter has, right? To kind of bring it back to She-Hulk, right? A lot of these people who shouldn't really be getting involved, getting themselves involved, right? Now, because they're getting themselves involved and they don't really have that big persona like an Iron Man, a Cap, they can say, you know what, like, yeah, that was a problem what you did over in Africa, right? But like, you're getting a slap on the wrist, right? Like,
right.
Like these lower level guys, it's not like that. You mess up and you're probably gonna get bagged, right? And
arrested
exactly. And another example of things that we've talked about leading back to our Miss Marvel discussion in previous shows is the importance of the DODC
right?
And the DODC is gonna be that government element that's constantly monitoring, getting their fingers involved. And you're probably not gonna like them, but they're always gonna be around because they got the power of Big Brother, right? So
because you need people to kind of be on that street level, right? Like, they know Nick Fury is that guy, got more power than the president, but Nick doesn't got time to be dealing with the street level, so that's why you're gonna have the DODC there to sort of clean up the streets, right?
Yeah, and like the representation of them is kind of flip-flopping, right? There's been the guy who's cracking down on Spider-Man and his crew, but they get off, and like there's no real charges to them. And then there's the situation in Miss Marvel, right, where one of the agents is overextending themselves, and that same exact dude from Spider-Man is like, I told you not to do that.
Right.
Like so there's this element of corruption as well. Like I went back to talking about before with, and how some of these characters like Emil Blonsky might get out, right, and getting Val involved. But once you get these DODC, like, there's going to be some people that are good within it, and there's going to be other people that aren't, right? And I think we've already started to see characters that are probably within this universe, like the guy from Spider-Man who's on the good side and trying to do it the right way, and then there's people on the other side who are probably co-related to them, like Val, who's helping get Emil Blonsky out, who's running the Thunderbolts at the same time, right? So
one last thing I want to mention is you said how we're gonna start to see these superheroes rise up and they're not really ready for prime time. I think that's also gonna fuel eventually the typical X-Men mutants aren't accepted versus others. Like, that's always been this big thing in the Marvel universe, is that the X-Men aren't accepted, which makes Magneto angry and it fuel. So I think it all is a melting pot and it works together, but I think that will also be a small little element in there. One thing we saw with She-Hulk is Abomination mentioned he had some pen pals, right? He said, I have 7 pen pals. Now, Corey, here of What's Next, is predicting the Thunderbolts. Tell us a little bit about the Thunderbolts and like 1 or 2 sentences and kind of what you're seeing here.
Yeah, like the Thunderbolts are supposed to be like Marvel's version of like a Suicide Squad, right? Not in the sense of really bringing like pure villains together, but it's more of like an anti-hero team. So somebody like U.S. Agent from Captain and Winter Soldier, Yelena as the Black Widow, right? So that's Deadpool. Two. You got Deadpool, who goes in there almost as like the wild card, right? You have Abomination, who's like the replacement of Hulk, right? And obviously in this episode, Emil Blonsky's kind of painting the picture of like, hey, like I was assigned by the U.S. government to go after your cousin, or like now everybody's celebrating the Hulk like he's a great guy. Like I thought that was supposed to be me, right? Like they're the ones that gave me what I did. And that's something that like I don't think we talk about a lot, is the fact that Emil Blonsky has a combination of the super soldier serum along with the Hulk like DNA within him, right? So hence why he is the Abomination, right? Together. So it definitely was interesting to me to see them. There's already been, like I said, a couple of characters introduced who are probably a part of that team. It would be nice to see who the 7 round out to be, but I think we got a good representation.
I think we got a good idea of who those people might be. But yeah, that's all I got for you right now, Corey. Corey's too humble to say it, but go check out this guy's TikTok, because he was predicting a lot of things that have happened so far. And you really don't, if you don't want to miss things, if you want to kind of get on the hot train, not to toot ourselves too much here, but so far we've predicted everything, and I mean everything that's happened so far, and even some stuff with Secret Wars. Like I said, check out our video over at the Circle of Two. We got John Carlos Esposito of Breaking Bad, Gus Fringe, to talk a little bit about him potentially playing Professor X. So yeah, we got a lot of great content here. We make new stuff every single week, so make sure you guys subscribe. Corey, let them know what's next.
Yeah, so we waited a little bit to get out the first and second episode. We wanted a little baseline, but we'll be back most likely with episode 3 on Thursday of next week or Friday of next week. I'll be in Vegas, so we'll be a little bit delayed, but stay tuned. And if you ain't keeping up with Game of Thrones and the return of House of the Dragon, not to mention we'll also be covering that over here on the What's Next channel and the Circle Club together. So stay tuned for every Sunday and Monday for that video as well. Thank you guys. Stay tuned, follow us, subscribe, so you always know what's next.